Yeah.
From Mo City to Houston, across the world.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy your flight.
Make some noise for Yams G the DJ.
Mic check, Yams G the DJ checking in. Play to win, first ever episode going down in history. What's up, Charles?
Houston, traffic has never been this hot.
Here we go!
Sit back and trip. This is the Traffic Jams with Yams.
Yeah, my man DJ Yams on the sound. You have tuned in to Play to Win. We're going to be dealing with 360 degrees of esports culture. Our guests will include professional esports players, executives, league owners, celebrities, all those people who have everything to do with the explosive growth that you're seeing in esports around the globe. You've tuned in to Play to Win. I am your host, Charles Gentry, aka The Oracle. Our two guests today, Adam Kaplan, professional esports player, and Mr. Cameron Reed, who is a videographer who produces a lot of the content that you see on programs like ESPN. We're going to have Brandon Butler on, our special competitive gamer who will be playing against somebody from our audience. So we're going to have a lot of fun today and every show. Now, without further ado, our very first guest up on deck, professional esports player Adam Kaplan, and you're watching Play to Win. All right, fantastic. We are here with Adam Kaplan, professional esports player, lover of all things Chinese culture, and Seattle native now, up there in the great Northwest. All right, how are you, Adam?
Pretty good. Pleasure to be here, Charles.
All right, fantastic. Well, we're going to get into a few things today. As you know, this is the very first debut episode of Play to Win, and we wanted to go straight to the top of the pecking order, Adam, and grab some of those people who are right in the middle of esports, from the playing standpoint. So you're the man of the hour here.
Pleasure it's a first for me.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right, fantastic. Well, tell us about your start in esports. You started at a what most people would think is a very young age. Tell us what age you started at and how you got going in esports.
Yeah, sure. So I'd say I started with esports around 12 or 13. My brother and I absolutely loved video games growing up. He's a little older than me, older by 2 years. And then we started getting into PC gaming on the PC because one of his friends was pretty into it. And then around like 9 years old, I got my own gaming PC and just kind of played a ton of games. And I remember this game I just got excited about whatever game people were excited about. I was too young to really understand the games, but I knew it was the game to have. And I knew Half-Life 2 was coming out. It was going to be the game to have. And I asked for it for Christmas. I found it 2 months early. My mom had stashed it in a closet. I snuck out, opened it up, installed it on my computer. She had no idea for a couple months as well. And turns out, along with Half-Life 2 came this game Counter-Strike Source, which it was a remake of a really popular kind of competitive first-person shooter. And I just ended up playing it for fun with some friends and had no idea what I was getting into and had a ton of fun. And played it for a couple years. I must have been like 10 or 11 around then. And then ran into another kid that was like 13 in a public server. We were just crushing everybody. And he said, "Want to make a team and play in a league?" And I just had no clue what he was talking about. I asked him all about it, and he said, "Let's make a team. Let's compete. You're really good." And we ended up making teams with running the show with a bunch of dudes older than us, having 13-year-olds boss them around, and we played for fun. But yeah, I just totally fell in love with playing competitively, playing in these league matches at night after doing my homework, and sometimes not doing my homework,
Oh, right.
Since then, I've been playing games competitively off and on, but yeah.
Okay, all right. Now, most gamers, when they go professional, of course, settle on one particular game. You started playing Counter-Strike very early and began to play that competitively. So, what's the unique things about Counter-Strike that made you choose that as the game that you wanted to begin playing professionally?
Sure. I think I've tried a lot of different games. I've tried to compete in a lot of different games, and the things I really loved about Counter-Strike were a few different things. It's really stood the test of time. It's 20 years old now, and it's been an esport for 20 years. So it's kind of, that's something I didn't recognize until I was a little older, but it's pretty undying. There's some games you get into competitively, and you think, are people going to be playing this 6 months or a year from now? And it feels like I'm getting into a game that might not last. But when you get into Counter-Strike, it feels like you're getting into soccer or football. This has been around and it's not going anywhere. And I liked that about it. I really liked the teamwork aspect. Having teammates, being friends with my teammates was a huge part of it for me. I tried playing some one-on-one esports, and it was just not at all for me. And I think probably the other thing I like about it is I love the decision-making of all the esport games, but Counter-Strike has a lot of, I wouldn't call it a physical sport, but it's got a lot of mechanical skill, a lot of reaction times, hand-eye coordination, and I really love that that's a big part of it.
Okay. So, being into pro gaming right now, you've been in a lot of tournaments, a lot of LAN tournaments. Tell us, what is the dynamics in playing tournaments? How do you do that within a season? Where are the tournaments? Give us kind of an idea of what a professional esports player does in terms of tournament play and league play.
Sure, yeah. So depends on the game. For games like Counter-Strike, there's leagues throughout all the different divisions, levels of play. There's an open league you can enter, and there's seasons that last a few months. And if you do well enough, you can keep qualifying for higher leagues with your team. And those are weekly matches, right? It's kind of like an NFL season. You have 16 matches over the course of maybe 10 or 12 weeks, and then you play in a playoff bracket if you qualify. And then depending how you do there, you can move on up. But it definitely depends from game to game. There's also tournaments, at a pro level in Counter-Strike, there's tournaments with similar systems, right? There's minors, and if you do well enough in a minor, you can get into a major. A lot of the tournaments I competed in were totally open. So basically got a team together or got my league team together, and we would fly or drive out to these things and pay the entry fee and just compete.
All right, and you're talking about tournaments, the payoff at the end. There's a pot at the end of the tournament if you do well. How does that work?
Yeah, so a lot of these tournaments are, they're totally open. You pay an entry fee with your team, and it pools together, combined with maybe they got sponsors to support the tournament, add to the prize pot, and then you take home winnings, right, if you get first or second or third. A big part of it is trying to get a esports organization, orgs are basically what they're just called in esports, to pay your way into the tournament and perhaps help with your travel or your stay or your food. And maybe in return, you'll represent their team name, wear their jerseys, represent the sponsors they've gathered.
Right.
And there's also invitational tournaments that I've been playing in recently. So those involve either playing in a qualifier to get in. So a qualifier is basically just like an open tournament, but the top slots get into the invitational, as well as just getting invited directly into the invitationals as a team.
Okay, all right. And you're now playing the game Valorant.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, and you switched over from CS:GO, right? You played CS:GO for a while. So tell us about, what brought about the switch, how you got into CS:GO, and what made you then jump to play Valorant as your main game now.
Yeah, so I got into CSGO. I played a little when it first came out. I actually got in a little beta test for it, and then I kind of took a break from gaming and then got back into it a few years later, around 2013, 2014. And then I got back into it once more last year. And I really enjoyed competing in it, but CSGO, with all its upsides, is a 20-year-old game, and it can be really hard to break through as a professional player in such a developed game. It's, you have to play a lot of catch-up. You have to know the right people. I knew going into Valorant that I would just have a huge upper hand being there fresh from the start and putting in the work from day one. It's much easier to break in. So I knew individually it was just a more practical decision, but I also liked the look of the game. Counter-Strike's an amazing game, but I consider myself, when I play Counter-Strike, to be a particularly smart or clever player more than having tons of mechanical prowess. And Valorant is a little more heavy on the teamwork and complexity to the strategy, and a little less on the mechanical end. So I knew it would be a good fit for me.
Tell us about the team play you've been with lately. As we said, as of June 15th, you're kind of a free agent now, but you've been playing on teams and playing at a pretty high level. So tell us about the team play that you've just been in and kind of the rankings and how that went.
Sure, yeah. So my brother actually played Overwatch competitively, and he played with some friends, and they ended up being picked up by the big organization Complexity. And a couple of his friends were making a Valorant team, and he let me know. So I reached out to them, and I ended up putting something together with them. A few players, and they needed two, so I joined in as the fourth player there. I joined in. I started playing with them basically a day or two into the Valorant beta, which started on April 7th. And we just knew we wanted to make a team from the start. We practiced as a team. We scrimmed other teams from the start, and played a bunch of tournaments. And we did pretty well. I would say we were certainly a probably 10, top 12 North American team, I think would be a safe statement to make. And we were looking into getting some organizations to sign us, and we were getting into some of these invitational tournaments. And yeah, definitely kind of under the level of the top 6 signed teams, but we were really trying to break through into that very top tier.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the good old college days. You were there at the University of Washington.
Yep, that's right.
All right. Well, tell us about your time there, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some work you did with the Smash Brothers. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So tell us about UW a little bit. What was your activity there, and what did you get into there?
Yeah, so I went to University of Colorado Boulder at first for a year, and I majored in journalism for half a year and philosophy for half a year, and wasn't really feeling the college experience there and dropped out. And a buddy I met there is from Seattle, and he just said, like, hey, dude, what are you doing? You want to move out here and live in a house and just be young people hanging out? I was in Maine at the time, and so my brother and I moved out there, and I went to community college here in Seattle for a year and then transferred to UW, and that was definitely a good move. I majored in psychology right away. I got a minor in English, creative writing, and yeah, it was a good experience. I went to UW for like a total of 2 years, and beautiful university, really good time. I focused as much as I could on sports psychology. I took a master's level sports psychology class, found that really tied into the esports interest, and then graduated last June.
Okay, fantastic. And then you got to get in some work with the Smash Brothers, very well known there in the Washington area. Give us a little clue what that was about.
Yeah, so I, at the time, wasn't playing games competitively and wanted to explore or set myself up for other careers in the esports scene. So I worked a little bit. Esports was kind of just blowing up at University of Washington. Super Smash Bros. is just a great competitive fighting game that's played as an esport, and University of Washington had a really good Smash Brothers scene. So Smash Brothers is good as a game because it doesn't play very well online, so it ends up being a game that's played locally. You have like lots of local tournaments with weekly people coming in and showing up, and I really wanted to work with the guys and try to set something up to have a little experience with my own career. So I helped them with the streaming. I just lugged my huge computer into one of their tournaments and basically said like, hey, I'm going to stream for you today because I think, the streams have been off and on and you could use a bit of work on them. And we just started streaming right away, running kind of the overlays and getting it on Twitch TV. And we got a couple hundred viewers one night, which was a big deal for us. That was kind of our peak with me working with them anyway. Yeah, that was a pleasure, yeah.
All right. Hey, we know that, looking from the outside in, people see professional esports players and, just like physical sports, they go, boy, I would love to do that, But there's another side to it that people don't really realize is there. Your major was sports psychology, and you had the advantage of being a pro esports player as well, so you know what it's like to play in league play, you know what it's like to play in tournaments. Tell us kind of about the other side of it. There's a lot of stress that goes on there with esports players, and
Oh yeah, it's pretty rough. It's a seriously brutal thing to pursue, and it's not for everybody. You really got to be built for it. You got to be made for it because it's a tough lifestyle on a normal person. I think a lot of people who get into esports get into it because they're really good at games, and I think they're really good at games. A lot of them, myself included, because they used games as an addiction or an escape, and you end up putting a ton of hours in, and then as a byproduct, you end up excelling at them because of all the time you've put in, and then you end up competing. But you kind of have to be able to deal with switching that off and on once you're competing. Once you're competing in a game, you used gaming as an escape and it was about fun, but once it becomes work and you need a strong work ethic, I think it's something that a lot of players struggle with in esports, kind of approaching esports in the right way, knowing how to learn work ethic from in a setting where you're playing a game where you were raised that that's a pastime and for fun. And it takes a ton of hours, right? I mean, football season's well set up from the start. It only happens so many months in a year. There's high school football and college football. There's tracks where you have coaches and learn how to play. You can't play football 12 hours a day. Your body would fall apart. But esports is kind of missing that structure, those coaches early on. And you can play 12 hours a day, which means if you play 8 hours a day and somebody else played 12, they're probably going to surpass you.
Okay.
And so I think that's probably the biggest thing for esports. It's a really pretty mentally fatiguing lifestyle. You don't get a lot of time outside of it. So that's probably the biggest challenge for esports is you need to be equipped to be at your computer playing 60, 70 hours a week.
Right. And there is such a thing as game addiction as well, right?
Yeah, no, I'm a firm believer that that's something, to be concerned about and take seriously.
Yeah. So how do you keep a good balance between your life and the demanding life of a professional esports player? How do you strike that balance? Because again, you can fall off the edge on the game addiction side. You can fall off the edge on just spending so many hours practicing esports that it takes away, of course, from real, what would be your normal life. There's still only 24 hours in a day, so how do you balance that to stay healthy mentally and emotionally?
I think the biggest thing is that most esports players in the West came into esports having grown up spending their weekends and their summers and their time between school and homework on a computer. I grew up, and what did I do when I had free time and I was bored? I played computer games. I didn't learn to go play with a ball outside or run around and exercise. I didn't have a artistic hobby. Games were my time sink, and once games become work in esports, you need to spend all the free time you do have outside of gaming on things that balance that life out. So you kind of have to backpedal oftentimes and relearn to have different hobbies and time sinks that are your time away from work, which is gaming. So for me, whenever I'm not competing, working on Valorant, practicing with my team, I make sure that my pastimes outside of Valorant are not spent sitting in a computer playing a different game. I try to, all the time I don't have to be playing Valorant is not computer time, and I'm pretty firm with myself on that. make sure I go out and run, make sure I go on a hike, make sure I play with my dogs, try to do some photography, pursue my own hobbies. I think you really have to have hobbies outside of gaming that really heavily counterbalance it.
Okay, all right. And some of your hobbies there, hiking, doing those things. You're originally from New England, okay?
Yeah.
And then you get to Washington, there in Seattle, which is like the other side of the world, from where New England was. So you got into the Seattle life there, and tell us about some of the things that you enjoy there in the Seattle area.
Yeah, there's a lot to enjoy here. There's a lot of hiking, a lot of beautiful landscapes that are very different from New England. Tons of mountains, pretty grand, large trees, large mountains. So I try to hike a lot here. As much as I miss the 4 seasons of New England and would take New England's weather over Seattle's any day of the week, an upside to Seattle is it's never too snowy or cold. So things like running and stuff you can really do every month of the year, which is a big plus. Another thing I enjoy, I love movies. So I always joke to my girlfriend we plan to move back east, but I'm gonna miss the movie theaters more than anything. There's all these cool indie theaters and a lot of things that would only survive in a place like Seattle.
Right. Yeah, it is definitely an artist heaven there.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about some of your hobbies and some of the things that you love to do. I know that you like movies, as you just said. You're into music. Tell us about some of your favorite movies. What are you? Are you an action guy? Are you a superhero guy in the movie? What kind of movies do you like?
I would say I like dramas a lot. Some action movies, some drama movies. I like it all. Some favorite movies. I really like. Let's see. I'm not sure if you've seen it. Place Beyond the Pines is a great movie. It's by this guy Derek C. in France. Really good stuff. He also made Blue Valentine. I love Chris Nolan's movies. Inception. That's one you could watch 10 times over and not get bored of.
Right. How about music? Where are you at musically?
I like some pretty strange music, some pretty relaxing music. I listen to a lot of post-rock, a genre called math rock, a lot of guitar-focused, instrumental-focused music. Some favorite bands are kind of offbeat, but things like L1011 and I guess some more. Death Cab for Cutie is a mainstream band I really do like. They're from here. Lots of great music, actually, that I grew up listening to in high school, and then I found out later all those bands were from Seattle. So
yeah, definitely so.
Turns out to be a good fit, yeah.
Yeah, you can go on forever with Seattle bands,
Yeah, no kidding.
Right. Okay. Well, tell me this. In terms of your future plans, you've got that psychology degree and sports psychology. Is that something you're really looking at doing long term down the line?
Yeah, absolutely. I love competing in esports. I would really like to really hit the top level, be signed to a team, and make it count. But I can also recognize I'm, soon to be 26. I've got a girlfriend. We've got 2 dogs. We want to travel. I think about owning a house one day, a lot of the adult stuff, and as well as the amount of hours and taxingness of competing. And it's not something I'm at all ready to put down, but I think, what do I want to do, 2-3 years from now? And I'd really like to make my time in esports count and kind of merge my interests. So I think esports psychology is exactly where I would like to go in the long run. I think working with players to deal with a lot of the issues that have made esports so tough on me would be really nice. I'd love to see players do better by having a psychologist or a coach working with them. I'd love to see esports be more healthy and enjoyable and long-term as a career for young people because of the support staff they have. So it's something I'd really like to get into.
Okay. And what advice would you give for those young people coming up and thinking about getting into esports, or even those who just want to do gaming, at home, but they're spending a lot of hours doing it? What would be your advice to them?
I would say make sure you take care of your body and make sure that you spend time in your physical life. I think being healthy, eating well, and actually exercising to counterbalance sitting in a chair so many hours a day is something that I work on now and regret not paying attention to when I was younger. And I think that making sure you're present with family, with friends, make sure you get out in nature, make sure you still enjoy some of the parts to a normal life out in the world. It can be really easy to become out of touch with your own body and your own, life, and really have only that digital life, only that esports life. And making sure that even if you really want to put the hours in and pursue it, make sure that you still enjoy things outside of it. It can be tough when it feels like all or nothing.
Right. Well, one thing I know about you, you're well versed in a lot of things. And one thing that is one of your passions is Chinese culture. Tell us how you got into that.
I focused on, I remember constantly having to learn Spanish throughout elementary and middle school. I think that's something common with most people in America. And I just remember not really grabbing to the language or being too interested in it. And then, of course, to graduate high school, I had to learn a language. And I put it off for a year. You had to learn it for 3 years. So I put it off freshman year because I really had horrible experiences learning it. And then I saw that I got lucky because Chinese became a language offered by my high school the next year. Turns out that there were programs between Chinese and American teachers where American teachers of Chinese would go to China and teach English, and English teachers in China would come to America and teach Chinese. And so my public high school, is part of that program. And this amazing teacher, she came over, and I took Chinese and just totally fell in love with it. She was really fun. She taught us a lot about Chinese culture, made me excited to learn the language. My best friends from high school ended up being through that class, and then we got lucky and got to go to China for 5 weeks with kind of the sister school we'd partnered with. And I did that when I was, I think, 17. And yeah, just totally fell in love with the food, fell in love with the people, the country, loved speaking the language. I think another thing was it was the first time I'd taken 5 weeks away from computer games in literally since I could ever remember. And that kind of, I think it was kind of, I held that memory dear as like a break, a kind of a exploration into a different life.
All right. Well, tell us just a few of the things that you saw there in Chinese culture that you really brought back with you, because it's every culture has its own way of doing things. The things that are normal there might be abnormal someplace else. So kind of what few things did you pick up from Chinese culture that you really brought back with you?
I remember enjoying how much the conversation was really upfront and teasing, and people seemed to say what they felt or thought a lot of the time. And growing up on the East Coast, you get a little familiar with that. But I remember China was kind of taking that New York attitude or something, where people just say what they're thinking to you on the street, and cranking it up a couple notches. And I loved it. I just felt like people said what they were thinking. Maybe I wasn't positive because I didn't speak their language as well as them, but I really enjoyed the kind of, it was kind of wild. Everyone was kind of high energy where I went, and I really liked that. So I try to channel that as much as I can in Seattle, which is about as polar opposite as it can get. This is the mecca of reserved and polite culture. So.
All right. Well, as we part, give us a little Mandarin, if you will.
Okay, sure.
Just great.
我爱玩电脑游戏，我爱中国，我爱你们。
Excellent. Translation?
That was, I love video games, I love China, I love you guys. Just winging it. I'm a little rusty.
All right. Well, we have been talking with Adam Kaplan, professional esports player, lover of Chinese culture, speaker of Mandarin, and Seattle resident. So, Adam, we thank you for being on Play to Win, and we wish you great luck in going forward. Hope that free agency turns out really well for you, that you get on a team that you love, and continue your career there. And also, good luck in moving forward into sports psychology, because again, I think that's a fantastic area that really needs a lot of good people going into it who have actually been able to see it from both sides as a player and as a psychologist. And I know that you'll have great luck in that.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think you could have, I couldn't have said it better. And thank you for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure. It was a lot of fun. And it's an honor to be part of Play2Win. I hope it really takes off for you as well. Thank you, Charles.
All right. Appreciate it, Adam. Hey, have a great one.
Appreciate you.
Talk to you in a bit.
Yeah, you as well.
All right.
Yams G the DJ. Never been this hot.
Here we go!
Sit back and trip. This is the Traffic Jams with Yams.
All right, we've been listening to the sounds of DJ Yams. All right. Hey, we have our resident gamer coming on right now. I'm talking about the man himself, Brandon Butler, BT Tech Tiger. Brandon's going to be playing members of our audience during our shows, and they're going to be competing for prizes. So, if you can knock him off, the better prize you get. Trying to get that money, man.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Hey, Brandon's not gonna make it easy for you, right, Brandon?
Nah, I'm not trying to give away no free money. But if you can get it, try to come and get it.
There you go. All right. Well, we're gonna be just talking a little bit, introducing you to Brandon as he's playing a game here, just getting into it a little, Call of Duty. So go ahead, Brandon, you can jump into it and we'll get into the interview and let our fans know what's going to be coming up.
Let's go.
All right, game mode, excelente.
All right, getting into this mode right here, chilling with the Oracle himself.
All right.
We getting into the Matrix over here.
Team.
All right, man, the shoot house.
Right. Let's see what we got here.
Yeah, we definitely will be shooting.
Out in the shoot house.
Here we go. Got my loadout ready.
Weapons?
Yep, got that loadout. All right, feeling good, feeling good. Yep, got my team right here. I don't know them, but they my team today. All right, let's
Roll with
go.
'em.
One of my tactics, if you don't know why, go high, okay? Because, you know, the higher perspective, yep, that's right, there you go, right
There you
there.
go.
That's the
Man
whole
down.
reason. Yes, sir. You get that higher perspective, you see everything. Uh-oh. Okay. A little sneaky. He hopped on the floor. See that? Took us both out, man. That's all right. I respect that, but I know where he's at now. We going to get him. Where he at? He was on the floor right about. There he is. There you go.
All right.
Get that revenge. That's what I'm
Right.
talking about.
Go.
Okay. Oh, friendly fire. Let's watch out. Okay, throw that grenade. If he's over there, we gonna fish him out. Okay. All right, yeah. Okay. Try to smoke him out. Okay. Anything behind this corner? No. Man, I throw out my tactical a little too early. Okay. All right, let's go. We got a little smoke cover. Let's see what's over here. Okay, going up. Anybody? There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Charging right at you.
Yeah. Can't be running all the time. Sometimes you gotta sneak up on them. Okay, check this corner. We clear. No, nope, there he is. Got him. Kingslayer, what's up?
Man down.
Okay, I see you. Oh, my boy. Was behind the car. Okay. All right, bam, up there. Oh, accuracy. Comes down to accuracy on this. Okay. Oh, watch. I try to double up on him, but I got one though. I got one guy. I got an assist. Okay. All right, let's maintain that pressure. Okay. See, look at that. Oh. Okay. We getting him. We on him. Okay. Tracing around them corners. Oh, got me reloading. You saw that? Okay. Okay, we up high. Good perspective. Shooting down. Always a good perspective.
Right. Always take the high ground.
Yes. Here we go. See who's up there. Anybody else taking high? Okay, we got somebody in the window up there. Let's see if we can catch him in the window. Okay. Oh, got the fire. Okay, wait up. All right. Okay, all right, let's let them get him. All right, we got two guys up this way. Let's check out the left. Yeah, let's check out the left. Anybody? Any stragglers? All right, high ground. Okay. Anybody? There we go. High ground once again. Oh, gotta follow up. Oh no, got me. Get this corner. Anybody? All right. Smoke them out. Anybody there? We smoking them out. Nobody. High ground's clear. Uh-oh, somebody's coming from the back. Let's get over the wall. Reassess. All right, got him. Okay. He didn't expect that. Okay. All right, let's look. Oh, didn't look left and right. Okay. All right, he got me from the reverse angle. Okay. All right. Okay. Where we at? We up 69. Okay. 51 or high ground. All right, what you doing? See? You gotta pay attention, man. He tried to get that high ground, but it backfired. There we go. All right. There we go. Winning kill. What's good?
Good shot. That does it.
Yes, winning shot. BT Tech
75,
Tiger.
52. BT
Yes,
Tech
sir.
Tiger.
Yes, at the top, 2850. Let's get him.
All right. Hey, we're going to be pitting audience members against you in some Call of Duty. They just got a little taste of what's going to be coming up. Tell us about what you expect, from people challenging you there. How do you think they're going to fare out?
Well, first of all, I'm going to expect the best. I know a lot of people who play these games are very serious. And just like, in the martial arts game, you got to respect all of your opponents. Even if you think they have less experience, you got to take them serious. You could be friends afterwards, but as soon as that match starts, I'm going for your head.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, we're talking with Brandon Butler, BT Tech Tiger, and he's going to be matching up against members of our audience in a challenge. And how you get involved with that is you send in your email and a phone number where we can reach you, and you send that in to the email address bluepanthermedia@yahoo.com. bluepanthermedia@yahoo.com. And just let us know you want to challenge BT Tech Tiger. We'll line it up, and if your name is chosen, you get to compete against him for some prizes and see if you can take him down. But I'm letting you know right now, it's not going to be easy.
Let's see who racks up the kills. Got my loadout ready. All right. Here we go. We're in. Okay. Watch. Oh, left, and right. Check your left.
Right in front of you.
Yes. Look at that. Ran right past me. Okay. Checked. Okay. Let's open that up. Got my shotty, close range. Anytime we go indoors, we doing shotties. Okay.
You got one around that corner.
Somebody, okay. That's what's up. No time to reload, switch weapons. Know your controls.
Right.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Let's check that corner. Anybody? Okay, let's go. All right. I like to kind of, check my perimeters around the edges. Obviously, there's going to be no one on my left. I just got to look out for my right. Okay, it's all good. Let's see anybody in the, okay, we got somebody in the window. Okay, that's my gun right there. Right through the window. Okay, that's clear. Anybody else? No front door access. Okay, all right, let's backtrack around here. Let's skirt the perimeter one more time. Okay, front door clear. Here we go. All right, anybody in the window? No. All right, okay. I just missed him. Didn't want to give away that position. Okay, shotgun is loaded. We heading inside. Okay. All right, anybody want it? Can man is here. Anybody can get it. Where you at? I hear them foot. You hear them footsteps?
Go.
I'm hearing footsteps. I hear a little something. Okay, somebody's coming up. There you go. See? Gotta pay attention. Listen for those footsteps. Okay, clear. Okay, we're good. All right, somebody's gonna be coming around here. Let's load up. Somebody's gonna pop out. All right. Where you at? Somebody's coming up. Okay, it's not that way. All right, so guaranteed to the right. Somebody gotta be coming to the right somewhere. There you go. Yep. Shotgun. One shot, one kill. All right, damn, look at you looking the wrong way. Look at
Right.
Okay, let's load up. Reload. Okay. All right, are we good? Which way? All right, let's go back outside. Anybody coming in? Up, there you go. Pay attention.
Right.
All
Don't
right.
get caught sleeping.
No. Or you will stay asleep. Okay, anybody run up close? You are toast, see? There you go. Do not run up close. Okay. All right. I hear him.
Boom.
Look at him. He just ran. Okay. All right. I can't get them all at once, but okay, we getting close. Oh, long range. Got me long range. Okay, slide in. Okay, you gotta get in where you fit in. There you go. Watch your back. Watch your back. This is free for all. Ain't nobody got your back except you. What's going on? Okay, all right. Wasn't paying attention. Some of these people just running. Okay, all right. They got that chicken with their head cut off saying, oh man, that tactical did not deploy quick enough.
Uh-huh.
All right, okay. I did get the points for that though. Okay, let's go. Oh, okay. I don't know how. Hey, sometimes you get caught.
Go.
Okay. He's not there no more.
Let's get one more.
Okay. We up for we at third place right now. 11 kills. Okay. Yep, caught him. Shotgun is no joke. All right, I saw somebody's head somewhere. Ooh. Okay.
Oh.
Somebody, in case somebody come through.
He
tried to slide through.
Tried to sneak one.
Yeah, he tried to slide through without calling first. I mean, you know, you always got to give somebody a heads up before you come through, right?
Right.
Give him a quick little ring. There you go. That's how you ring him right there. Look at that. He paying attention to the wrong stuff. Oh, I missed him. Oh no, let me get him. Oh, okay, got him with. Okay, I did get him though.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, looking good. BT Tech Tiger.
Yes, sir.
Give him a little something of what you're gonna have coming up when they give you the challenge. So
Yes.
Once again, all of you who want to be involved in challenging BT Tech Tiger, get that email in to Blue Panther Media at yahoo.com. Be sure to include the phone number so we can give you a call, let you know that you are on deck to play for those prizes and try to take out the BT Tech Tiger himself. Well, hey, it's been great, Brandon.
All right. One more. Yes, sir.
Oh, he's down. Man down.
Gotta get one more for you.
There you go. All right. Well, we enjoyed it. Enjoyed seeing what everybody's going to be in for. So once again, we look forward to you getting to us, letting us know you want to be a part of the Call of Duty challenge against BT Tech Tiger. All right. We're out, BT. Hey,
Yes.
Appreciate it. Okay. Give them a little taste. Now they know.
Sir.
Right?
All right.
If they
Thanks
didn't
for having
know,
me on. Yes.
now they know.
Yes. All right.
All right.
So get battle tested. Come out and get battle tested.
Go.
Get some of that money.
Hey.
If you do it right, we might sprinkle a little bit down for you. You know what I'm saying? We might sprinkle a little bit.
But bring your A game.
Yes, sir.
Game.
All right. Good looking now, Oracle. Appreciate it.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me again.
Hey, you
Let's
got
get
it. You got it.
All right.
We'll talk to you on the next.
All right.
Have a great one, man. We're back here on Play2Win, and we are talking to Cameron Reed. And Mr. Reed is going to give us some fantastic stuff today. You're going to want to tune in. All of you who are gamers, all of you who love esports, and also all of you who love the technical things like camera and video, hey, you're going to love this interview with Cameron Reed. Cameron, you having a great day today?
Hey man, living the dream. As a matter of fact, yeah, I am having a good day.
All right, fantastic. Well, first of all, give them a little information on what you do, what your company is, and then we'll launch into it from there.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm the esports business development manager for Ross Video. Ross Video manufactures all of the technical equipment that enables us to produce live productions. So video switchers, replay, graphics, basically everything that you use to make live television. That's what Ross makes and manufactures. And so I started with them about a year ago to help them specifically develop the esports market because as you're well aware, it's been growing like crazy, and certainly it hasn't been any exception at Ross either, the growth of that.
Okay, all right, fantastic. Well, we know now that esports is a billion-dollar business. It's no longer the kids playing in the den and mom or dad screaming at them, "Hey, stop playing that game. That's never going to get you anywhere." We're in a whole different world now, and we're realizing that mom and dad might have been wrong.
It's so funny. My mom, when I told her, I started working in esports in 2012 at a company called NASL, and I told her what I was doing for a living, and she just started laughing, and she called me a son of a bitch. She's all, "Really? You did it?"
This is what I got you a good education for.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably the thing with a lot of a lot of kids heard that growing up, and this is probably the generation who's teenagers now. They're probably the first generation who is not going to hear that. Stop playing with that game. That'll never get you anywhere.
Yeah, I know. It's unbelievable how far we've come in such a short period of time, too, really. I can definitely recall kind of like waiting to make sure mom was asleep, so that I could turn on the
Right.
It's like if I didn't hear a snore, I was like, "Oh, what happened?"
I could be in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you are located in Burbank. Is it Burbank, California?
Yeah, actually Encino now, recently
Encino.
moved.
Okay.
Yeah. I should probably update all my socials.
There you go. Okay. A little deeper into the valley.
That's right. Yeah, a little warmer, a little hotter.
Right. There you go. Well, we know that esports is really becoming mainstream, and platforms like ESPN are carrying a lot of esports now, especially, with us all being locked in, and not having physical sports to watch. Esports has made its way onto ESPN and some of the other networks. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing on some of those networks, because you're the guy who's actually shooting some of that footage that we're seeing.
Sure, yeah. So I actually first directed esports for ESPN on ESPN2 in, I want to say it was 2016. It might have been 2017. We were doing the Madden NFL Challenge for EA Sports, and we were broadcasting the whole thing on Twitch. And then we got an agreement they wanted to air our championship game on ESPN2, which was really thrilling for all of us. So what I do in that scenario as the director, it's not like a film director. I'm a live TV director versus a film director, two totally different skill sets. So as the film director, as the live TV director, you can really think of me more as a live video editor whose job is to communicate all of the edits in real time to the team who physically have to punch the buttons to then make those edits. So, I'm the guy staring at a big monitor wall, and I see every video feed coming in, every camera, every graphic, every replay, everything. And then I'm like, okay, ready to take two. Okay, ready to roll replay on green and roll replay, take green, right? And so I'm
directing traffic.
Yeah, I'm like traffic cop in a sense, right? And so I edit the video live using my kind of communication skills, hopefully, right? And then everybody else punches the buttons based on what I say. And so every time a camera changes, every time someone's name or stats scroll across your screen on a graphic, every time we take an alternate angle of an instant replay or a slow-mo, there's a whole team of people behind the scenes doing that.
Making all that happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Okay. Well, kind of give us a rundown of the difference in doing that for esports versus a physical game where you're, physically doing that for football or baseball or basketball? What's the difference?
There's a few differences. First of all, there really are no limitations in esports to the way that you can cover it, because for example, if I'm covering football, there are very real limitations to where you can put cameras, why you would put them there, how are you going to get them there, right? You can't just have a guy on a steady cam running across the actual field of play in the middle
at the 50-yard line.
Right. That would be totally crazy.
Right.
But in esports, most of our cameras aren't even cameras. They're just computer feeds. So we get players to join the game, and they're sort of like a cameraman in this virtual space, observing, we call them observers usually, observing the match as it's taking place. And since it's not physical, there's virtually no limitation to what you can and can't do with that observer, with that in-game camera, which makes it both exciting and a little bit daunting, right? Because you want to do something innovative and cool, and you're capable of doing that. But then also it's like, oh my gosh, when you really think about, well, there's a million ways we could do this, so what are we going to do? And so that makes it really exciting. And then the other main difference between covering esports and covering like real traditional sports, whatever, right? I call it real sports, still comes out of my mouth like as though esports is imaginary, right. But like but the main difference, or the secondary difference I would say, is that in esports there's a new video game out constantly, and we have to constantly define a new coverage scheme. Versus in football, for the most part, the coverages are pretty well defined at this point, right? You've got your cameras, and you know where they go, and you know why they go there, and you know what they shoot. And the innovation in football or basketball or baseball is not from new angles or anything like that. It's from new technology like AR graphics, or just really creative storytelling, for example. But largely the coverage is just sort of an afterthought, because, well, no, okay, we got a 10 camera kit, we know exactly where to put all 10 of them. Or we got a 15 camera kit, we know where to put all of those. In esports, well, this game has only existed for 3 months, so nobody's an expert in it. So we're just going to have to figure out where to put all of our observers.
Okay.
And why. And then right when we think we've figured it out, a new game comes along, right? And now, okay, so now we're not really doing Fortnite anymore. Now we're doing Valorant.
Right, whole different ball game.
Right, and how are we going to do Valorant, and so that's what's really exciting about it, is I in my career have never once been given the opportunity even to rest on my laurels, right?
Okay.
So,
Right. Okay. When you're shooting esports, and again, as you say, from one game to another is so different, you're basically writing the script as you're going along, all right? In looking at it and having the experience that you do from years of doing this, what do you think are going to be some of the innovations that we're going to see going forward in terms of the way that these things are shot in esports?
I think that a lot more integration of like AR elements is definitely on the horizon. Some of the stuff, for instance, that, even not to get too sales pitchy about Ross, but some of the stuff that our company is able to do in virtualized sort of spaces is really cool. And we're using the Unreal Engine, which everybody will be familiar with from Epic Games, to render out the really hyper realistic sort of virtualized sets. Or we can bring like the video game characters to life right on the screen. And so if you're playing a fighting game, for example, like Street Fighter, and an important part in Street Fighter is everybody's kind of got their their character that they play, you know? And so they lock in that character. And if they change characters in the middle of a set, it's a big deal, right? Because most of the time, most of those dudes play their guy. And so if we could visualize that, right, by bringing Zangief to life next to the guy on a real camera, so you see him and the announcer's like, oh, he's changing to Zangief, and then boom, you know, you see
right there,
rendered in real time Zangief's character hulking and looking all, you know, like that's cool, man. That's really powerful storytelling. And so the more that we can kind of like bring the person even more into the environment, I think would just be awesome, right? Yeah. And then another way that I see a lot of innovation is in using the video game data to sort of automate a lot of the things. And I'd hate to say that it might put people like me out of a job, but it might put people like me out of a job where if the game's all data, everything's data. Every time a bullet's fired in Counter-Strike, it's a data point, right? Everything. And so if we can take that data and create smart tools to like automate these production workflows where, you know, we don't need an entire crew of people anymore. We know that if one guy pops off and gets a 4K, that we're going to watch that again. We're going to watch it on as many angles as we can. And if we could automate that because the game data told us to, you know, then we can create really efficient productions that way. So that's kind of two ways that I see real smart innovation in esports production kind of taking place over the next period of years, you know.
Now, again, from traditional sports, back to esports, you know, you have people in traditional sports that are icons, you know, that are the top people in the game. And if you're watching the NBA, you know who LeBron is, you know what status he has, you know, versus the guy who might be the 12th guy on the bench. You know, everybody knows this. But now that esports is being introduced to just this mass audience, these people who might be familiar to gamers, right, are now these megastars who the normal, quote unquote, normal people are just getting used to who they are, you know. So how do you play that in esports? You know, do you paint a picture of who they are? Do you kind of have to give a recap of who these people are? How do you bring the other people just getting on board up to speed on what's happening in the world of esports?
Yeah, that's a great question. It takes kind of a combination of creativity and technology to do it really well. So in my opinion, I think that the most important thing in a coverage of any live event, or well, live competition at least, is the storytelling, right? And I use the example of, I'm a big Olympics junkie every time it comes around, and my wife is like the opposite. And so she was kind of upset at me one day because I had Olympics on the TV again. And it was last Winter Olympics. The event was men's skiing halfpipe. And she was like, I don't care about this. And I was like, oh, well, honey, I'm sorry. Maybe, you know, it's what I'm watching. But then they roll this feature about this family man, American dude from Reno. And they go into his house, they shoot him pushing his kid on a swing and talking about his whole life experience. And now she's locked in.
Right.
And she sat with me locked in, getting upset that it was commercial break time, you know, like when you're really in it, right?
Into it. Right.
Totally. And so I say, like, it was that story that made my wife interested in something that she hasn't watched since. She doesn't watch men's half-pipe skiing, right? Like, right. And so esports has the opportunity to do the same thing. And so that's the creative side, is you got to find the story, you got to find the emotional hook, and then you got to know how to tell it. And then on the technology side, you got to have the tools to display it in a way that will continue to reinforce that connection, you know?
Right.
And so when I'm directing esports, I'm trying to get that character in the video game associated with that real life person as often as possible. And so I'm using a lot of cuts. Whenever he succeeds in the video game, I want to show you his face so you see the reaction and you start to associate, oh, there's a real human behind this.
Right.
You know, because you know, my wife might, you know, I always use her as kind of my emotional barometer if I'm telling a good story or not. So she might see something happen in a video game and not fully understand exactly what went on, but when I cut to the guy going like that, then she goes, ooh,
Right.
there's something I can relate to.
Right.
That was a good thing for him, and now she's starting to learn the game.
Okay.
Just like when we watch football, you know, she didn't know the rules when she first started watching football with me, but she starts to figure out what's going on, and it's always the hero shot, and cut to the heel, you know, who's like upset about it, and then back to the hero, and she starts to kind of realize, you know, and starts to learn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that we have seen in the past and learned from the past, good storytelling, you know, getting that hero shot in there, showing, you know, the the joy of victory, the agony of defeat, you know, all those things are going to also translate into what we are doing now with esports.
Yeah, 100%. The only difference is, the only challenge is, and this is kind of back to the point of it has to be a meeting of creativity and technology, is that in video games, you kind of have to do it with boxes, like in your edit. Because I kind of liken esports coverage to be very similar to boxing coverage.
Yeah.
In the fact that mid-round, you never cut away from those fighters.
Right.
It's career suicide. You might miss the knockout punch so that you could do what? You know, show some fan in the crowd reacting to a punch. Like, come on, that's crazy.
Right.
Esports is the same way. The video games happen in real time, and however much of an expert you become in any of these video games, you're not necessarily going to be able to predict what's about to happen next. So you cannot cut away from the video game once it's started. That seems to be in direct conflict with what I'm saying, which is I always want to tie a face to the character in the game, right?
Right.
So that's why we use boxes, DVE, digital video effects, right? To where I put in, you know, and I put in a box in the frame, maybe right here, right? To where that's his actual camera. That's his live face cam. Right. To where when you see it succeed, you see something happen in the video game, and then you see in his DVE box right here, his reaction.
Right.
Now you know, oh, okay, he's the one playing that character. And so then when the observer switches to show a different character in the game, I switch this box right here to show the guy playing the other character.
Okay.
And so that's where, you know, it's like the editing of it, it's the same core concept. You're exactly right. It's exactly like we've been doing in sports coverage for a long time now. But the techniques have to be a little bit different to kind of accommodate for the unique challenge.
Okay. All right. And dealing with esports, you know, the players, the professional players, again, we're talking about people, some who are icons and everybody knows. So how do you, in working for a video company, how do you choose, or how does your company choose which events you're going to cover? Because, you know, there's a championship over here in Korea. There's something happening here in the US. There's something happening in Europe. You know, it's not like you're watching the NFL and you know what the top games are this week, and, you know, everybody's showing New England, and, you know, so how does your company choose what they're going to put their focus on?
Yeah, so it's really competitive. There's a lot of esports production companies out there kind of fighting for all the business. So, you know, Ross Video, just to be kind of like, just to create the distinction, Ross Video is totally agnostic to all those production companies. we create tools for whoever goes out and does that production, whether that be ESL or whether that be Blizzard themselves or Riot Games themselves. Ross doesn't really compete at that level for who's going to produce the show. We just provide the tools to whoever's going to produce the show. That being said, so other companies I've worked for in the past during my freelance career, like ESL, NGE, Paperlight, all these production companies that do a lot of esports shows. I've worked for OGN, you name it. And so they generally all compete for the same contracts. So let's just use a recent example where Supercell, the company that that makes the game Clash Royale, right? Amongst many others, but Clash Royale we'll just use for this example. Supercell decides we would like to have an esports tournament, and we will dedicate X number of dollars towards a budget in order to do the tournament, create a prize pool, and do all of the production surrounding the tournament as well. And we're going to try to make some of our money back by selling some advertising and selling tickets to the live event. Now, Supercell doesn't have any sort of business experience doing any of that stuff, right? They make video games. And so what they do is they put out an RFP to all the companies who do esports and do video production and can provide referees and can do everything that is necessary for that event to be a success. And so in my experience, they all kind of bid against each other, and then they all win their market share sort of over time. You know, maybe they win some here, lose some there. But for the most part, all of the players kind of know who they are, and they all kind of bid against each other. So it's not really, how do I put it? It's not really a matter of selecting what, if I'm, you know, a production company, what am I going to cover? It's more a matter of like, win some business, you know, and we'll cover it. We've got the guys on the team who know we'll figure out the video game.
Right. Well, we are talking with Cameron Reed of Ross Video, and we're talking about esports and his coverage of esports and all those wonderful things that are unfolding right before our eyes here. One thing that we really want to talk about this evening, because I know it's of an interest, you know, to a lot of people. Esports is opening up a whole gamut of jobs and careers, you know, just like the traditional sports did. And the bigger it gets, the more jobs and opportunities it will present. And thinking about it that way, and being at Ross Video, as you say, that makes a lot of the equipment that's used to cover esports. What are some of the basic things that are out there right now? Let's say I'm interested in you know, doing some kind of production, producing some things in esports. What's some of the basic equipment that I'm going to need, one, and secondly, what's some of the new innovative equipment that I might need to think about as well?
Sure. So to cover an esports event, you need quite a bit of equipment. You need, so just kind of thinking about it from like glass, like the lens of the camera, from glass to transmission, right? So you need cameras, and then you're going to need to bring all of those video feeds into a video router, which will then send those video feeds to all of the kind of corresponding equipment that needs to access those, one of which will be a video switcher. That's what actually physically cuts or dissolves or wipes all of your video feeds, right? You're gonna need instant replay capabilities. For a small size like startup, depending on the video game you're doing, you might not need the instant replay because the video game might be able to do it for you. But I would always have one because the video game cannot do a slow-mo of like a hero shot, you know? You can't do that with a video game. So you're gonna need a replay server. You're gonna need a graphics generator. right? Because you're going to want to name everybody that you see on screen. You're going to want to use stats to tell your stories. You're going to want to do everything that you can only do with graphics. You're going to need advertisement, right? Certainly, graphics will do that for you. The other thing you're going to need that's different is a lot of like signal conversion and glue. So the video signal that a camera generates is different than the video signal that a computer generates. Okay. And so you're going to need to convert one of those signals into to unify them into the same video signal to get into your production workflow, right? So you're going to need a lot of conversion like stuff to make sure the frame rates are all the same and just kind of time everything and lock it all up, right? Okay. So that's quite a bit of kit, you know, and none of that stuff necessarily comes super cheap either. It's a significant investment, you know, if you're going to get started up to do live esports coverage. Some of the more innovative stuff that's going on is, you know, all of that is like a lot of boxes and a lot of cables, right, that plug into a box. And so some of the more innovative stuff that's coming out is, I think, more like cloud-based solutions where you don't necessarily need a big box if that box is sort of being virtualized in the cloud, right? And so that will enable, I think, like these remote productions to be a lot more like streamlined. And you know, you don't got to necessarily spend 3 days before your production setting everything up, plugging everything in, setting all your destinations and your salvos on your router, and just, you know, technical mind-boggling stuff that smarter guys than me know how to do, you know. If it's all just sort of virtualized, you just got to bring cameras into a computer or maybe one box, and then everything else, your switcher, your replay, your graphics, if all of it's being virtualized in the cloud, you're nimble. Okay. You're moving. You're like, where are we next week? Who cares? Let's go. Okay. All right. Get on a plane. Let's go. So yeah, I think that that's pretty cool. And then another interesting area of a lot of innovation that we've kind of been forced into also has been kind of on the same topic of the cloud-based stuff, is like working from home sort of solutions, right? In a traditional sort of a like live esports production workflow, you got to have a lot of guys on site, you know. Okay. You got to kind of pack them in like sardines into a truck or a control room where they're controlling everything from. COVID-19 has really kind of challenged our industry to come up with a different way of doing that. Right. And so we've seen some really innovative sort of solutions and ideas in terms of, well, how do we get that same production value you get from a control room if your director and your replay and your graphics and your producer and everybody's got to just be stuck in their own bedroom at home, you know? Right. How do you do that, right? So we've definitely at Ross been addressing that problem. We've been helping several companies sort of in that regard, namely EA Sports, with some remote sort of production support, where we're able to have a guy doing graphics on ESPN, right, for EA Sports, just from his home office. Okay. And that's pretty cool stuff. Right. And even when the question now that we've figured it out is not, it's no longer how do we do it, but it's kind of become like, well, why go back to the old way if we can do this? Right. Right. You know, why spend all that money in travel and crew and hotel rooms and per diems and stuff if you're like the coordinating producer or you're the line producer for an esports show and you got to manage this budget? Why spend 10 grand in crew travel when you could spend 5 grand on a solution that lets your crew work from home? Right, right. For example, right. You know? So it's changed the game. Yeah, really. Yeah. Well, tell us how you got on this path to, you know, where you ended up with, you know, in growing up,
You know, I don't run into many kids who say, hey, you know what I want to do when I grow up? You know, I want to direct videos. You know, how did you get on that path that took you to here? Yeah.
So I've been a gamer my whole life. I told you about Dr. Mario, right? And so fast forward to I'm in college. I'm enrolled at Cal State Fullerton, and I'm studying broadcast journalism at Cal State Fullerton. And in 2010, I was able to attend my first BlizzCon, which is the big event that Blizzard puts on every year in like November, right? And while I was at BlizzCon, I saw a bunch of what I would describe as broadcast journalists running around wearing suits. They got mics, there's lights and cameras and the whole thing. And I'm like, this is crazy. This is what I want to do. I've already decided this is my major. I could do this for video games. You know, like total like moment. Yeah, and so I just sort of decided that day, November 2010, like, well, this is what I'm going to do. And so I started pursuing it very earnestly. Every little news package that I would do for a class, I would make it about a video game somehow. I'd always find a way. You know, and even if it wasn't really newsworthy. And then I was hosting a radio show at Cal State Fullerton about esports and PC gaming kind of culture. Then senior year, sort of some of the esports stuff fell off a little bit because I was just really buried in schoolwork and making sure I was going to graduate and everything. And so when I graduated, I had in the fall, I had an internship over the summer. And then in the fall, I had kind of two diverging career paths. I had one opportunity was to be a reporter at the NBC affiliate in Medford, Oregon, market 180 something, you know, where you start in TV if you're fresh out of college, you know. If I accidentally drop an F-bomb on Oregon's TV, Medford, Oregon specifically, I probably won't be on YouTube. But if I say that on NBC LA, like, oh, it's over, right? Exactly. So, you know, it was Medford, Oregon as a reporter, NBC, or as a production assistant, as a PA on this esports show that would keep me here in LA for a company called NASL.
Okay.
And any of the old school esports guys watching, you'll remember NASL. And I was working there, and back then we were just, I mean, gosh, man, we were just a bunch of gamers trying to make this thing happen, just trying to make our dream a reality of bringing the highest level competition of video games to television screens sort of around the world, or, you know, now it's cell phones or laptops or everything else you can watch it on. But that was it. We were just trying to figure it out. And in 2012, 2013, there was like two companies in America doing it. There was us and another company called MLG, which I'm sure, again, all of the old school esports guys, they know all about MLG. So like, I want to say between those two companies, specifically focusing on esports video production and storytelling, there may have been 50 people in all of North America, right? Trying to make that thing happen back then. And because there were so few of us, we all started taking on these roles that I think would have just been crazy to think about that quick of a career path in a traditional media, for example. So I started as a PA. It was 2012. The first show I directed professionally was BlizzCon opening weekend in 2014. And so that was a 2-year career path from PA to director.
Right.
Insanity.
Yeah, where did that happen?
I still look back on it and I'm like, how did that happen, dude? Like what was I thinking taking the directing job? I probably wasn't ready, you know, but of course I took the opportunity. And then, yeah, from there, it just, oh my gosh, it took off. So 2014 and 2015 was really the year I think esports kind of started really happening. you know, like most of us that knew about it before that were like nerds and sort of we got it, like we were in this weird little culture, and that was kind of it, you know. And then in 2015, I just didn't stop working. And then 2016, I just didn't stop working. And it got even busier in 2017 and 2018. And now here we are, and we fill stadiums for esports events, you know, and I'm working for, I was PAing a StarCraft 2 stream in 2012, and now it's 2020, and I work for a huge manufacturer that has like 850 employees, you know, and it's like, what a ride, man. It's been totally.
It's almost like something straight out of a video game.
Yeah, right? No kidding.
Right. Okay. Well, last two questions, and we're talking with Cameron Reed again of Ross Video. You're listening to Play to Win. I'm your host, Charles Gentry, aka The Oracle. And what I want to ask you, last two, Cameron, is this. One, where do you see esports going from here?
Okay, so that I've been wrong every time I've tried to answer this question. So I'm going to preface it by saying that, like in 2012, I didn't think this was going to happen. And then even in 2015, when it started getting busier, I didn't think these things would be happening. And as much as I've always loved it, I've been in it because I liked doing it, not necessarily because I thought it was going to turn into some big career. You know, it's just what I wanted to be involved doing. And I've always looked at it kind of like punk rock in that sense, where every once in a while the mainstream will be like, ooh, the Ramones.
The Ramones, exactly.
We like them.
Right.
Thank you. And then punk rock keeps going. And then fast forward to the 90s and the mainstream's like, oh, Green Day. Oh, we like Green Day, so we'll take them, and then you guys keep your NoFXs and your Bad Religions and your Pennywises, you know. But then the NoFXs and the Bad Religions and the Pennywises all went on to have awesome careers, you know, and some new punk act might get huge in the next couple of years, you know. But that's the kind of analogy I've always used, is that like it could be the next rock and roll, where it's just it dominates for 50 years until something new and cool that we can't even think of comes along, like hip hop music did, you know what I mean? Or it could be the next punk rock, which is that like, hey, it's awesome. And there's a lot of people who are really into it. And it's not necessarily, it'll have periods of big mainstream attention, but it's already too late to go away, you know? Even if the mainstream is kind of like in a couple years, like, we're not as into esports as we were. Esports is going to carry on, man, just like punk rock has kind of carried on in spite of, well, Green Day was 20 years ago. So, yeah, so I realized I was sort of like a non-answer because I didn't commit either way. But like I said, every time I make a bold prediction about my industry, I end up being on the wrong side, so I'm not going to try.
All right. Well, we definitely enjoyed having you on here. Some great information. And my last question, of course, is the most important question I'm going to ask you this evening. How are the two dogs?
The two dogs, they're great. They're awesome. They're doing fantastic. We just came back from a trip, actually. We were practicing some safe social distancing up in Yosemite.
Okay.
And the dogs were with us, and they were bold and brave. They're so funny, man. They're two miniature dachshunds, right? They're like big. And I was putzing around in the Merced River and kind of trying to catch some fish, and one of the dogs was pretty nervous that she wasn't at my heel because she's at the shoreline with my wife, and so she just dove into the Merced River to come swimming after me, and I'm like, you're crazy, what are you doing? But she ended up okay, and we're back home now and all good. So thanks for asking.
Excellent. And give us the names. Give us the two names.
Yeah, Layla and Jude. If you couldn't tell, I'm kind of a rock and roll guy. So, yeah, Layla, Clapton, Jude, Beatles.
Hey,
Yeah.
here's my Eric Clapton moment for you. Layla is my all-time favorite song. Derek and the Dominoes.
Oh man. Oh. Cool, dude.
There you go.
Shirt too. All right. I noticed.
Hey, well, thanks for being on with us this evening, Cameron. Really enjoyed it, and I know our audience enjoyed as well. Okay, so have a great one, and we'll be having you back on again.
I look forward to it.
All right, fantastic. Been talking to Cameron Reed once again of Ross Video, giving us the scoop on what happens behind the scenes there with the cameras and equipment in esports. So you've been listening to and watching Play to Win, Charles Gentry, aka The Oracle. DJ Yams, take us out.
This is how we do it. This is how we do it. All hands are in the air.
Y'all tucked in?
G the DJ.
Once upon a time, not long ago, when people wore pajamas and lived life slow, where laws were stern and justice stood, and people were behaving like they ought to good, there lived a little boy who was misled by another little boy, and this is what he said. Me and you tonight, we're gonna make some cash, robbing old folks and making the dash. They did the job, money came with ease, but one couldn't stop, it's like he had a disease. He robbed another, sister, brother, tried to rob a man who was a DT undercover. The cop grabbed his arm, he started acting erratic, he said, "Keep still, boy, no need for static." Valiant